NCAA teams are getting eliminated left and right in the national tournament. And that includes the Boston College Eagles, who yesterday played off against the Denver Pioneers in a very tight 3-1 loss. And as a result, I think this tweet by Eric Engels sums everything up. With Boston College now eliminated, Jacob Fowler watch is on for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, not only are we just going to be talking about the fact that BC is out and Jacob Fowler, Habs prospect and stud goaltender in the NCAA, is available to sign, but we also have ourselves some updates from folks around the Canadiens organization and what the plan just might be. Because it's been no secret that Jacob Fowler has been one of the hottest Montreal Canadiens prospects this year. Florida guy, 20 years old, 6'2", 214, left-handed goalie, drafted by the Habs, 69th overall in the 2023 NHL Entry Draft. Very nice draft position, if I do say so myself. But as we had said, Jacob Fowler was on a bit of a tear this season in the NCAA. He posted up 35 games, had a record of 25-7-2 with 7 shutouts, scoring a .940 save percentage and a .163 goals against average in those 35 games. Lots to like out of the statistical profile of Jacob Fowler, even in the last game where he lost. He only let in 2 goals on 24 shots against the Denver Pioneers, losing 3-1 and having a .917 save percentage in the process. We can ignore the .895 save percentage game he had against Northeastern because that's like the only quote-unquote subpar game that he had performed in over the past month and a half pretty much. So Jacob Fowler has been so impressive, especially when the games have mattered the most for the Boston College Eagles. Obviously, it helps that he's playing for Boston College and they are a particularly good NCAA team, but I mean, if you take a look at the NCAA and its overall productivity this year, you will see Jacob Fowler near the top of the save percentage list. He's 3rd overall in the nation. And one of the guys, Christian Stover of Bowling Green State University, had half the games played as Fowler did. So I don't think it's a stretch to go out there and say that Fowler is legitimately one of, if not the top 3, best goaltenders in the entire NCAA. A .940 save percentage is nothing to scoff at, and he was 2nd overall in the league in shutouts. It's kind of weird because the guy who was number 1 in shutouts, Connor Hasley of Bentley University, had only 21 wins on the year, but he had 11 shutouts, so half of his gosh darn wins were shutouts. Anyways, we're getting off track here. Let's talk about some tweets regarding Jacob Fowler and whatever future could exist for him and his profile. This was posted by Anthony Marcotte after Jacob Fowler's elimination yesterday evening for Boston College. There are 3 options for Jacob Fowler. 1, sign his ELC with the Canadiens now and burn the first year of his deal. He would become ineligible to play in Laval during the season and playoffs. 2, accept an entry-level contract for 2025-2026 with an amateur tryout contract to join Laval and play there right now. And 3, decide to wait until next year and return to Boston College for a 3rd season. Okay, the guy had a .940 save percentage. I don't necessarily know if that would be too productive for him and his development. This is kind of the time to shine. This is the time to grasp on to taking the next step because Jacob Fowler already had a ridiculous season in the NCAA this year. I don't think he needs to prove himself one more time, but that's just me. Signing his entry-level contract with the Canadiens and playing with the Canadiens right now is something that we see a lot of NCAA talents do. They sign NHL deals for right now and then they play, or they do the second option. They sign a contract for next year, and at that time, we will see whether or not they're able to make the NHL team. In the present, though, you're seeing a lot of ATOs in the AHL, amateur tryouts for these NCAA prospects, so they could join their AHL teams right now, play some games for free, and they're not going to get paid until the professional contract kicks in 25-26, but they're getting that experience, they're getting that cup of coffee, they're getting the knowledge of how it feels to be in the AHL. That's also an option, too. As for which option Jacob Fowler is going to take, well, let's head over to Habs on Reddit on Twitter, because their tweet sparked a thread that gives us a little bit of a direction here. Jacob Fowler's Twitter profile photo features him as a kid in goalie gear wearing his Habs jersey. And that is absolutely awesome. Nice to see Jacob Fowler representing the Habs in his Twitter social media handle. You had Marco D'Amico go out there and reply to this conversation. From my conversations with Jacob Fowler, it's a formality as to when he signs. The situation right now is simply to determine where it's best for him to start. If he signs his ELC effective immediately, it's Montreal. If he signs an AHL tryout and delays his ELC to 25-26, it's Laval. And so from Marco D'Amico's update, it does seem like Jacob Fowler is in a pretty good spot to just sign and start out his hockey playing commitment with Montreal, although we just don't know where that's going to be at this moment. Do they decide to take his talents over to the big club, or do they decide to send him down to the AHL for now and have his ELC kick in 25-26? I would say that it's probably more beneficial for the player to get the NHL contract right now and start playing in the National Hockey League. Firstly, because he has really nothing to prove at this point. I mean, he is one of the best collegiate goaltenders in the entire NCAA, so he definitely deserves a pass to being able to play an NHL game or two. And also, there's the fact that if he signs his ELC for right now, then he can burn a year off, and he'll be able to get paid bigger money sooner, rather than having his ELC signed for 25-26 and having that extra year attached there. If Jacob Fowler absolutely explodes and he's amazing right off the bat, there's no question marks about him, and he's so good, then he would probably want to get the dollars that he could get as soon as he could get, rather than waiting an extra year. I get it that 1 year is 1 year and you can wait 1 year to get as much money or as little money as possible, but for NHL prospects and athletes, these early 20-year-old seasons are very, very important in starting these players on the right paths and giving them that development system that they could be comfortable with and grow into. Jacob Fowler's 20 years old. He'll be 21 in November. So if he's already on top of the world, on top of his game, then there is a very good chance for him to potentially do some damage in the NHL right away and burn off that ELC in the process. Now, you gotta ask if it's appropriate for Montreal to give Jacob Fowler a game or two towards the end of this 24-25 season. If the Canadiens are still hovering in that wildcard spot, do they want to give Fowler an opportunity to shine? Because every point matters here. They wouldn't be tossing him into the NHL with the intent of him losing, but they would have to keep it in the back of their minds. He is an NCAA guy, after all, trying to make his transition to the National Hockey League. You could bring up the argument that says, hey, these Canadiens games right now are so important, they can't afford to screw them up, they can't afford to give up any points. Maybe right now is not the time to give a spotlight or a, hey, try it out opportunity to Jacob Fowler. Maybe this is not the time. But then the other argument is, hey, if you want to focus on his development, he was already playing some very important games in the NCAA tournament. He was a very strong goaltender in those games. Why not try him out for at least a game against a weak opponent? Like, the Canadiens have a schedule that is not too difficult. They play the Panthers tomorrow, yeah, but they do have, like, the Red Wings, for example, in early April. They do have the Predators. They do have the Blackhawks. Why not give Jacob Fowler a chance in one of those games? Or, if you really wanted to just kind of 3D chess it, you can play Montembeault in those weaker games against Nashville, against Detroit, against Chicago, and you can give Fowler the games against the Maple Leafs or the Hurricanes. If you're looking at those games and saying, oh, well, the Canadiens may not have too much of a chance of winning those games in general, why not give Jacob Fowler those games? Because the odds of us winning those games were already not great. So if we lose against Carolina or against Toronto, hopefully we've made up enough leeway by winning against Chicago and Nashville so we can get the points we need and still make the playoffs whilst giving Fowler that opportunity. It's a kind of weird way to think about whom it is that you start and play, but ultimately I think that's what the Canadiens have to be thinking about when deciding whether or not you sign Fowler to an ELC for this year or for next year. which of course is better than him going back to BC for a third year. So for now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this huge update for the Canadiens and how it seems like Jacob Fowler signing is going to come. We just gotta wait and see when the contract will kick in and where it is he's going to start. Let me know in the comments what do you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.